Welcome, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We're having a special report. Trump is fixing to address the nation after 6B-2 bombers bombed the nuclear sites, 3 different nuclear sites in Iran. Without further ado, let's going to welcome Gravel is with us this evening. He's a specialist. He's Air Force. And Adam is coming back with us. He was with us earlier. Welcome, guys. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We're fixing to go live to hear Trump's address the nation. Gravel, quick viewpoints, a minute out.
What I'll say, I mean, we in the Air Force, we get a lot of shit, but we can also bring a country to its knees in a matter of hours if we need to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know you're shocked too, Adam, aren't you? I wasn't expecting it. I mean, some say they were prepared for it, but I really, if it was going to happen, I didn't know it was going to be 3 sites. So you guys, they were effectively ready. And word is he may tell us in depth a little bit more. Heather, whenever you're ready, if it's going live, you go ahead and pull it up. Welcome everybody in. Thank you for joining us. A special report. We're going to watch and listen to what Trump has to say to the nation for what has taken place tonight.
Well, while we're waiting on that, I think the most important thing is that no American servicemen or women were injured in all of this.
Absolutely.
It's like a wham bam. Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead. I think what Trump's going to say, if I could guess, I think what he's going to say is like, I warned you. I gave you 2 months. You didn't want to do it. And now we're at that point where you're, I mean,
what was left? What choices?
You want more? I mean,
he said 2 weeks, but the element of surprise is the art of the deal.
Yes, ma'am. That's for sure. Adam, what are your thoughts, sir?
I mean, I'm kind of waiting to see what he says, right? I think that we will see blowback from it, like we have historically every time something goes like this bad, right? I am happy that no American servicemen or women, because as much as I disagree and talk shit about our government, I love our soldiers and I have nothing but respect and love for them. I understand that our government puts them in bad positions quite often, right? This is how I feel about it, but I'm not a soldier. I would never claim to be one. I'm not a veteran, but it's just kind of how I see it. But I think that Iran's not some punk country, right? They're not just going to sit back and take this shit, in my opinion. And I think there's going to be blowback from it. And I think that this is going to put us at a greater risk of harm than the alleged nuclear news that we were hearing about, because we've been hearing about that from Nazi Yahoo for fucking over a decade.
Very true. Very true. Okay, where you see the podium, go ahead and cue it up, Heather, whenever you're ready.
We will be taking it live right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. This speech is going to be something played. I thought the soundbite from Carolyn Levitt the other day about the quote that President Trump talked about when it comes to that within 2 weeks will be the decision to go, or not when it comes to Iran. We know that now has happened. Again, the next question is what kind of retaliation will happen from Iran? Will there be a retaliation? I see something happening there. Let's go there now. Live right now to the White House.
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin-Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Short and to the point, right?
That's it. That's Big
I've-
Daddy.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why the Iranians thought they were going to mess with them.
Hi, nobody. Welcome in, everyone. We'll dissect this a little bit. Like I said earlier, Gravel is a retired Air Forceman, and he probably knows a bit more about this than I do, of course, and maybe can talk to us a little bit in depth of what processes it took to do this and what possibly the outcome of this is going to be on this magnitude, this scale.
Yeah. So when I was in the Air Force, I flew A-10s. So my mission would be quite a bit different than a strat bomber, strategic bomber, like a B-2 or a B-52 or B-1, for example. Because I was more like a close air support guy, but I am actually trying to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. I'm surprised he acted as quick as he did, but Donald Trump, he's got a head fake.
Well, but for him to act that quick, not to interrupt you, but for him to act that quick, then he probably felt that this was an emergency. It had to happen. Something.
Agreed.
Something.
And that's all. Agreed. That's what I was going to say. When he came out on Thursday, I think it was, or when Levitt came out and said, I'll take 2 weeks to decide. At that point, when he said that, I'm like, he's already made up his mind.
Absolutely.
And he's going to give like a little space, but the plan was already in motion. That I can almost guarantee you that.
Had to be. I mean, that was 3 sites. Now, we've watched some videos earlier about how in depth it is, and some would be saying that it was going to take 10 of these B-2 bombers to actually effectively hit their targets and destroy these nuclear sites, but there were 6. What is the difference between the 6 and the 2?
The difference would be if I could speculate or guess,
The 6 and 10, I mean.
yeah, I knew what you're getting at. It's it, it, when you look at Intel and because I was seeing on the news too, they're like, well, it's going to take 10 of them to do this, and that actually, I was watching the news, I was listening to everybody talk about it. The GBU-57, which I've never dropped, I could never carry a weapon that heavy, but those are like what you saw in the news. Those are unclassified numbers. It's like, generally speaking, like you could Wikipedia that, but it's a lot more than that. And so when I was hearing the media saying, "Oh, it's going to take 10 runs and whatnot," I knew right then it was something else. And here's the other thing: I'm not saying that people were inside the compound or the whatever when that happened, but they probably found a weak spot.
So we'll probably hear reports, which you can't really tell if it's truthful or not with these reports of so many people and what it hit, what the backlash was, and stuff like that.
Well, Israel built they built an entire drone base just outside of Tehran, and I wanted to say, like, right prior to these attacks happening, I have my speculations on this, but I'll go ahead and say them since we're on here. It was probably women, because it probably wasn't men. It was probably disenfranchised women and from Iran, and women, basically operatives, because they could probably go. I mean, how do you build a drone base in Tehran, your enemy, and they got away with it? But I mean, you look at like the pagers and whatnot. I mean, the Israelis are smart. I mean, when it comes to intelligence, I actually think they're better at intelligence than the U.S. is.
Mossad,
You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's your thoughts on it, Adam?
So I think I believe that this is like, I think they had this plan for quite a while, right? I don't believe this was like spur of a moment or they found something out. And the reason I say this is because I was already kind of questioning what we were seeing whenever BB and Trump were breaking up publicly, right? And they had this big public breakup. It was right around the time he was breaking up with Elon. And what we saw at that time was we saw Trump head over to the Middle East, right? And he went and talked with Syria, the ex-Al Qaeda dude that we used to have a $10 million bounty on his head. This great man, or strong man, or good-looking man, or whatever he called him. He went over there and hooked up with this guy, and he hooked up with the Saudis. And I believe that he was setting that up during that time. BB went ahead and did another massive assault on Gaza. And then it's me and Driver. He might be in the comments, but we were talking about that. I think I mentioned in the podcast too that the day that Israel launched against Iran, immediately whenever Iran shot back, they had planes up in the sky from us, the UK, Jordanian airspace was opened up, Saudi airspace was opened up. These are things that don't just happen on the fly, right? So they had this kind of worked out, at least in my mind. I don't know. I don't have like any kind of inside intelligence. It's just kind of what the optics show me. And I think it all kind of plays out pretty perfectly like that. That if you just sitting back as a civilian, just watching it all play out, it seems like it was just a perfect plan to get to him. Every timeline that like Trump would give out, it seemed to like renege on it, right? Or something would kind of change it out. It didn't seem like there was a whole lot of there wasn't a whole bunch of like coherency there, right? Everything seemed kind of discombobulated, but in actuality, I think it worked out exactly how they intended.
Well, we have a couple of videos of the actual. I don't know which sites it was that made contact, but we have a couple of videos. I personally have never seen anything like this. So I've got just a couple. Heather, go ahead and roll number one of it. It has no sound to it. This one doesn't. It's crazy to see something like that. Go ahead and roll number two.
من به گازوی شهرانو زدم. همینطوری دارم میزنم. ما چه گناهی کردیم تن بدنمون باید بلرزه؟
I would say the intel, of course, on the money, or they wouldn't do this. He says he got all of it. He says that they hit all three.
They better hope so. I have a hard, like I said earlier, like these people have been around since the beginning of time, right? Like we can talk all the trash we want about them being cave dwellers or whatever, but if I don't expect something like that just to go unanswered. When, how, I don't know. But
that's what I was curious.
That's quite a fucking thing.
Yeah,
you know, that's not some minor deal. And
well, Iran prior to the Shah's taking over and it becoming a theocracy, was actually a very westernized country. I knew something was up when the Shah's, or not the Shah, the king or whatever, he's now passed away, but they call him the Crown Prince. He was exiled, and I knew something was up because Fox News and a couple other channels actually interviewed him. And this was, I guess, probably about 48 hours ago. And he said, look, I don't want people calling me the Crown Prince. I can be, and this is what he said. And I knew right then when he said this. He goes, I'm just going to be the transition party, or I'm going to be, until we can get like a democracy back in there. Like somebody votes, the Iranian people can vote people in. And both Trump and Bibi have said time and time again, they're like, look, we don't have a problem with the Iranian people. What we have a problem with is, your rulers, basically. And when you look at the nuclear proliferation treaty, here's what baffles me is that, especially in the case of Donald Trump, is that he warned them. He gave them 2 months. He's like, hey, you are not going to have a nuclear weapon. And they just wouldn't come to the table. And I think that what's fascinating about all of this is this was not a Joe Biden or a Barack Obama threat. So when you look at the global policy, or the global like foreign policy, the U.S. foreign policy, I think by this right here, he just put China and Russia back on their heels, because they're like, he did it.
Well,
I mean?
and now we're going to see, because Putin had said that if he did bomb them, that Russia stood with Iran.
And that's why this is a big deal. I mean, now there's 3 or 2 there now, 1 en route, but 3 carrier strike groups in that region. It wasn't like Donald Trump woke up today and said, today's the day I'm going to bomb Iran. He had to get everything in place, in case there is a in case there is a retaliation. The only thing I can't speak to is if something's going to happen on the inside of the U.S., and that would go back to the border.
That
So
was my
who's
next
here?
point.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
That
I'll
was
let
my
you take
next
that,
point.
Crazy. Go ahead.
Well, that was my next point to it. Because we have cells in here. I think I still have a video in here I didn't play for when the podcast come, and it's something they found recently, which we've known about it. We've known this has been going on, but this was something they recently found. And this will kind of tie into the immigration part of what we're kind of talking about. Heather, if you want to play Tunnel 206, that would be great. We'll get to it now. I guess it just falls in line.
Tunnel,
with what
Eric,
we
thank you
were-
for the invitation. And before we go on, Baja California, it is the state with more tunnels in the country that, underneath the wall to cross illegally to the United States of America, substances, illegal substances, and narcotics. But this tunnel was found just a couple of days ago, more than 700 meters underneath. But it was discovered. The curious thing about it, and is the most important thing, Eric, it was discovered first by the American authorities in a warehouse outside, crossing the border underneath the wall in Otay Mesa and in the United States territory. Then the American authorities alarmed the Mexican authorities to go particularly to this particular address. And then it was discovered it was a 2-story home that they had this narco tunnel that basically goes underneath the wall and crosses and goes directly into a warehouse in the United States of America. This will be number 18, tunnel number 18 in the state of Baja that has been discovered by Mexican authorities, also, cooperating with American authorities. Eric.
It's interesting. And again, I spent some time at the border, and that was, it's not even that far. All right, so these tunnels, here's the border wall. Here's the border wall. It just goes, east-west. These tunnels sometimes they start maybe 100 yards into Mexico and end in a warehouse, maybe only another 100 or 200 yards in the American side of the border, and they're very well hidden. And they're usually around areas where there's a lot of commerce, so you don't see a lot of things coming and going specifically. Is that what you found here as well, Oscar?
Yes, and this one was really close to the pedestrian crossing to the United States of America and the Otay Mesa vehicle port of entry, the Sentry line. So it's just incredible how the cartel has the ability and the freedom to make these tunnels into these houses. Also, not too long ago, around a year ago, another tunnel was discovered next to the National Guard headquarters, also close to Otay Mesa. So it tells you the level of capacity and the level of power that the cartel has due to the corruption, Eric, we have to say it, and the Mexican authorities.
Okay. So that leads me to speak about something I actually recently just learned about myself. We're going to go to the photos, Heather. We're going to go to number 1. And this was interesting. And I was listening to the dynamics of what he was talking about, the yardage, miles from where it was. Not that one. The other one, sorry. Yard. There we go. The Supreme Court has clarified that the Fourth Amendment does not protect against government invasion of privacy without a warrant in all situations, particularly within the 100-mile border zone. Go to number 2. Here is a map of the United States. That includes our entire border, not just the border in Arizona. Our whole country has a border wrapped around it. A lot of people don't wrap their minds around this. Go to number 3. I'm ready for number 3. About 200 million people live in this zone, including residents of 9 of the 10 largest U.S. cities. The zone encompasses not only borders with Mexico and Canada, but also coastlines, significantly expanding its reach. Without a warrant within a reasonable distance from an external boundary of the United States, additionally within 25 miles from any such external boundary, they may access private lands, but not dwellings, for the purpose of patrolling the border to prevent the illegal entry of aliens into the United States. Now, see, that was something that I just recently learned about. I really didn't know about this. I mean, I don't know, Adam and Gravel, you guys may have already known about it. I didn't know anything about that. And when I looked at that map and I saw how it went around, our entire United States, I was like, and then I started paying attention to these tunnels being built. And people always say, well, you illegal. And there are courthouses and there are businesses and places that are built within this 100 miles, outstanding of the 25 miles outside of that 100 miles. So when they go in and they stop these people, not in all instances, in many, they're within their ICE is within their legal rights anyways, but they really are, per the Supreme Court, within this 100 miles. So
yeah, and a lot of that is actually, if I'm following what you're saying, a lot of that's actually federal territory, because it's actually unclaimed land. And so when Hegseth did, I don't mean to divert from the topic, but just run what you're going on. That's why Hegseth basically, so that map you had up, that's why Hegseth was able to say, we're going to send the military down there, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. That map right there. We're gonna so like those kind of, not the dark orange, but the lighter orange. We're gonna send the military down there, and we're gonna treat it like a base.
Well, take a look up there at our Washington D.C. Take a look up there at New York and those cities. So you hear so many people, saying, "Well, you're doing this illegally. You're doing this illegally." That leads me to say I'm going to do more deeper dives because ICE is within their legal right for doing what they're doing, but they really are, per the Supreme Court stating this law here as well. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah, I think I just want people to understand something very clearly, that this was all coordinated. It was coordinated with foreign governments. I'm not saying they knew about it, or at least knew the time that it was going to happen. It was coordinated domestically. So if I could guess, and I'm not a law enforcement officer, but if I could guess, like the cyber people within the FBI and Homeland Security, they're like watching, streams right now looking for threats, so
right.
And I would, after what happened just now, I would imagine if I could guess, there's probably going to be a lot of arrests going on.
I would think so. I mean, think about it. We'd be so naive and ignorant to think our borders being open the last 4 years and age fighting men, every country coming through. These are sleeper cells, guys. These are sleeper cells from every country. And how many times did we show videos when Real America's Voice Ben was on there asking, where are you headed? Where's your destination? And they would continuously say Iran, where they were from, Iran, Honduras, many different places,
China,
every,
China. Yeah. And
everywhere.
Heather, I want to hear from Adam too. I didn't mean to talk over.
No, you're
That's
good.
all right.
No,
We get caught up
I
in
enjoy.
it.
No, you're good. I enjoy. I don't mind listening. I enjoy listening to other people's perspective just as much as I like talking. So, it's all right. So I look at that map, and I had heard about this, I think like 2 years ago. I might have heard about it. I don't remember when it was actually enacted or whatnot, but it is something like that. When I look at that map, I see perfect positioning to not so much protect our borders, but lock us in. Call me conspiracy theorist or whatever. I understand that the Supreme Court said that it's legal for them to do this, right? But this is an infringement. Anytime that they're going to just say that they have intelligence and it allows them to infringe on Americans' rights for safety, this is a problem because historically we have seen what this leads to. This is how we got the National Firearms Act. This is how we got the Brady Bill. This is how we got the Federal Tax Act. I mean, over and over and over and over, we see instances where our safety overrides our rights, and they go, well, we created a problem, because they did. They created this problem, but the only way that they can decide to figure out how to solve it is by infringing on our rights, right? They don't find any other way to do it, but every time it always just seems to take from us every time. and this is nothing new. My problem with the Supreme Court saying this and or this being allowed by people, that's fine. Okay, it is what it is. But again, um, I know that people are feeling real confident right now because one party is in charge of everything. Remember these days, whenever the opposition party's in charge and they start using it how they feel is legal and right, remember this, like these things set precedents. And no one party, if you believe that each party is actually opposition to each other, no one party is going to be in charge forever. At some point, you're going to be on the back end of it. I think there's a good chance midterms are going to be lost by the Republicans because history says so. Only twice since World War II have a president kept both the House and
Oh,
Senate or not lost one of them. Only twice since World War II has this happened in the midterms. That's a hell of a lot of history to try to go against. And especially now when you have this and a lot of people openly, I mean, look, let's be honest. In the election, Trump should have crushed Kamala by a lot more because she was a fucking idiot. There's no way this should have been this close. Maybe it was dirty voting, right? Maybe it was some of that, but a lot of people voted for him
wait a
because they
minute.
fucking.
You are you say say that again?
So so like okay, so Trump he beat Kamala handily, all things considered, right? But if you
Yeah.
look at Kamala, she's like literally she's probably the worst candidate
Yeah.
ever for president.
Yeah.
She wasn't ever elected on like she had never been chosen, even on the previous primaries and other years. Like she was never chosen by the people. She
She
was just
was
thrown in
like
there. She
2%,
yeah,
3%, you
like
know.
he should have done some like Ronald Reagan-esque fucking shit, right? But a lot of people voted for him because they're not going to vote for her, right? It's not like he has this great stance amongst everybody, right? Um, and Americans are fickle. They are. So I thought already, me and Crazy Mike had talked about it a lot. We're like, people need to worry about the midterms because if he doesn't do exactly what he says he's going to do, like right on time, it's not his fault in all cases. But this is how Americans are. They have no fucking patience, right? And they're going to lose the midterms. And I think these current situations are going to do that as well. So I think he's going to be blocked up. And I think there's a good chance that come the next election, depending on what happens in the last 2 years, that you might get a Democrat fucking president. And if that happens, just remember all these
God
things that
help us.
everyone's happy about, that it's not an infringement because it's for our safety. Well, when it gets turned on us, which it most certainly will, because historically this is what these fucking tyrants do. You know, we were happy about it 4 years ago.
I mean, Adam, I would agree with you wholeheartedly if the country was like in a normal like state of being. I don't know what to say, but right now, like the midterms, for example, here's the issue. Here's what I'm seeing. Just as a voter, when I look out at the political landscape, right now, the Democrats don't have a front runner. It's not clear to me what their message to the American people is, and just like I don't know, kind of breaking news, the DNC they fired David Hogue.
Right.
They fired their president, and they replaced him, or
And
they're
they're hurting
about
for
to.
money now.
I don't want.
They're hurting
broke.
for money now
They're broke.
Yeah, politicians are hurting for money. Come on now.
because the USAID blocked their ass out.
The problem
Politicians have different ways to make money. They're fine.
Absolutely. They got
Yeah.
Taylor Swift's coming in for UNICEF and it's called Swift something that her and Beyonce.
Exactly, and I understand. I mean, but I really think, I was never really a political guy. I mean, I've been a voter for, I'm 49 years old. I turned 18 and I voted. I've been voting ever since I was 18. Politics weren't really that big of a deal until
Mhm.
Trump came into office, and maybe I'll call it the Trump effect, right?
Yeah.
Then I started paying a little more attention what was going on federally, statewide, locally, and whatnot. And now what it is, we are so politically charged it would be nice just to kind of get back to normal, and just say, hey, look, all right, you got some policies and this and not. But what I can't figure out, and I'll just say it like this: what I can't figure out about the Democrat Party is that I'm sure you've heard this 80-20, 90-10 deal. Like this 80% of the people, it's just a number. 80% of the American people want the border secure. They want a better economy. They want good jobs, so on and so forth. The 20%, they're voting on all these fringe, or they want all these fringe issues that the American people just don't really agree with. Or whether they agree with them or not, is it's not that important to them. Like, you know, uh, trans in your children, so
I
on and
agree.
so forth.
Right.
And that's where I think they're running into a problem. What surprises me, and I'll shut up here. What surprises me is that everything the Democrat Party ran on in 2024, especially, they're now doubling down on that rather than saying, you know, we I mean, they obviously hate Trump, and that's going to be the message. But that, when you're sitting down at the kitchen table, that seems to be the message that's going around, is that why hate Trump? And it's like, okay, well, what do you want to do to fix it? And they're like, well, I don't really know, but I hate Trump. That makes sense. Sorry,
Yeah.
I kind of.
No, it makes perfect sense
No,
because
you're good.
that's what people are told. They don't even know why they dislike him. But there's more that approve than disapprove.
The
And
thing I
he
would
ran
say
it.
about the Democrat Party, right, and kind of what he was referencing, yeah, they fucking went loony. We were talking about this earlier,
Yeah.
country, just how insane it is, right? And right now, I mean, yeah, they might still be like kind of talking about that shit, but it's nowhere near the push that they were going for the last 4 years. It's tapered off quite a bit. Imagine, look how far they went, right? They went to the most extreme fucking like of looniness. Like they were completely just it was absolutely absurd, made no sense, right? It's not like it
Right.
would take a whole lot to get that party back to normal. All they would, or like back to normal, all they would have to do is just pull back from the craziness, right? They went so far, it wouldn't be a whole lot to make them improve or look like they have improved, right? If they were still pushing it like heavily, all this crazy shit, yeah, that would be fucking weird. And I would agree that there's no way they're ever going to win shit. But yeah, they might still talk about it because they still need that fan base, right? Or that voter base. But they're not gonna go like overboard like they did the last
Yeah.
4 years. They did what they
We
wanted. They caused the chaos.
we have to remember that's the thing. It's going to be very fresh in our mind, and we're going to keep it fresh in people's minds of what they did do for those 4 years and what will happen if we get another Democrat in office. The damage they did in those 4 years, and if they get back in there again, the damage that they'll do even further. That's what's terrifying
Who
because they're unhinged. They're freaking unhinged. Not all
who do you think's
Democrats.
more?
I've got
You're right.
friends.
You're not wrong. You're not
Yeah.
wrong. But who do you think's okay? So we all know that midterms get low turnouts. Who do you think will be more motivated to go out and actually vote during midterms? Do you think it's going to be the adults who typically, you think they're going to go, you know what, we have to go vote to make sure these fucking kids don't win? Or do you think the kids go out in mass and do what they've been doing and collect each other and fucking go out in massive numbers
Well,
to go
I
vote in a
think
midterm
it's a
because they
bit
feel
different.
ripped off?
I think it's a bit different now because we've actually got people pushing midterm votes, just like not as heavily as we did the president
We never
election,
do though.
but right. But we do have more so now than before. Of people saying, hey, you got to get out and vote. That's why we got to start now, guys. That's why you've got to push now. Just like Trump came out the gate, doing his rallies throughout the whole entire 4 years. That is what us truth seekers and us patriots, Americans, it's our due diligence to do that if we want to keep our country safe. Trump's got a lot of work to do, and he hit the ground running doing it. but we're just what 5-6 months in. We still get about 3.5 more years, but it's going to take every American to cast that vote. If you want to keep your country safe, if you want to be able to pass policy, we've got to have control of the House and the Senate. We really need to. I mean, even if we lose one or the other, it's very detrimental to our safety, to our functioning, to the future in general. This has to be just as important as a presidential election. It's that serious.
Agreed. And Adam, you're right. Historically, the midterms are kind of like, we got it, we're fine. Everything's going to be fine. But I think this midterm is going to be a little bit different. And I'll be honest with you, brother. I really don't think the Democrat Party is doing themselves any favors when you got like the AOCs and the Jasmine Crockett,
I'm sorry.
out there. I mean, they're making, when you really think about it, they're making campaign ads for us. It's just it's like, do you want to live in that kind of a world or this kind of a world?
Yeah.
And by no means am I saying that Donald Trump is perfect, because
No.
he's not.
No.
But I will say this, personally, as a voter, I could care less if he had one affair or 10 affairs. I don't break bread with the guy. You know what I mean? He's not my spiritual leader. I'm a non-denominational Christian. But, I want a guy, to be honest with you, I want a guy that the world fears.
Mhm.
And like, based on what just happened today, I think he just probably put China and Russia back on their heels, because they're gonna know he's not playing.
He's not. He's not. And we were talking earlier, we got on the point when I was showing the video of the tunnels. He said that was number 18 tunnel that they found. Number 18. And not only what we've had come across the border, the getaways, now we've got tunnels, which we know human trafficking is going on there. It's like I said, sanctuary cities are a problem. Some will go against me and say, well, this or that. No, if we have immigration reform and get it fixed to where people would want to come through legally. Does that make sense? Instead of, I mean, you got those that are felons, you've got the evildoers, you've got the cartel, but you take away and you cut that main artery off, and these sanctuary cities is the main artery to them being able to traffic and launder and do everything. Get these tunnels blowed up, implode them bitches, get done with it. I mean, I'm sorry, but the way Trump acted like he had to with Iran, we need to act like that with this cartel. We need to act like that with these sanctuary cities. I'm not saying blow them up. I'm saying we need to be very direct in how we handle things and get it done. However we can get it done, it needs to be done.
I think
It
that's a
really
dangerous
does.
statement. I think however it can be done is a dangerous statement.
However it can be done, and I said not blow them up or anything.
No, I
I'm
don't mean
saying
blow them up, but I'm just saying they will. I'm just saying constitutionally, right? Like I was speaking on, maybe people don't see it as like I do as such a big deal, but this has happened historically. I mean, there's a list of them, of times that things have happened, and oftentimes it's by their hand that they
with
cause
it.
these things, and then they enact legislation that says, well, for your safety, we get to take your rights away. The one thing that is a constant is you never get them back. Never.
Well, nobody's asked me. She's asked me a question. What about legal U.S. citizens who traffic to do all of the evil that illegals do? I agree with that. We do have it United States is number one in trafficking, number one, trillion,
Best
trillion
import
dollar
export.
business. Exactly. But I believe if we start with the sanctuary cities, we cut off that and we work our way, we're going to find out it's all connected. Every bit of it's
Well,
all connected.
well, yeah, and exactly. And nobody, uh, if I'm not mistaken, I think recently, like within the last week, they took down a big pedo ring in Texas.
They just did another
Uh,
one yesterday.
Yeah. But the question is, so this is where the whole immigration.
How do you do it? How do you do it?
Well, where did all these kids come from? Because, like, I mean, I'm a parent. Uh, Adam, I don't know if you're a parent. I know Country's a parent. Um, I know where my kids are all the time. So who are all these kids that were being? Did they come from somewhere else, or how
The
did that
system.
all happen?
That's
Yeah,
true.
the
The system.
system that could be true as well.
It's responsible
You
for a
know,
large number of these children.
right. So nobody. I guess what I wanted to answer nobody's question is that there are U.S. citizens being taken down for this too. Does that make sense,
Yeah. And I
Colonel?
mean, I agree with nobody. I wasn't just singling out our sanctuary cities and illegal immigrants. This is a whole worldwide, and it's not just the United States, even though we are the number one trafficking. It's connected now to other countries. They have a system in place. We have to start somewhere, like I said, dismantle it. You start dismantling their entire system, yeah, 90% of the time they'll figure out another way, or they already got a backup ready to go. It's an evil world. It's a cruel world that we live in. But the children should be safe and come first. I didn't see them in Congress. I didn't see them in Joe Biden's term talking about the 500,000 children that are missing, that just poof disappeared. I didn't see them going to bat and checking on CPS centers like they're going to these illegal immigrants where these detention centers are. I didn't see them going to CPS centers, the centers when the children came across the border. All I saw was vans and buses and cars shipping these kids out. I seen people driving up to these centers and grabbing 5 kids, saying that they were sponsoring them or taking them home. And then when the committee hearings questioned the CPS workers, the directors, and asked them, well, how do you do a follow up? They said, well, we call them. Well, you call them. Yeah. Well, what if they don't answer? Well, we call again. That's how you lose children. That is exactly how you do it. And this angers me so much because right now, as we sit here, these children are having god awful things done to them, and it could have been prevented. It could have been stopped. And you Democrats sit on your ass and didn't go up there and complain to CPS or nothing about children, but you'll freaking go do it about illegal immigrants in a detention center. Why? Because there's MS-13 gang members, because you're dirty as shit. You got your hand in the honey pot. You've been getting paid from it. And now it's time to pay the piper. And now the truth is coming out and you guys are running scared. You're running freaking scared because the truth's coming out, because we do have Donald Trump in office and he is a God-fearing man. He is, and that is what we need in our country, a God-fearing man. God has been taken out of our country, but he's putting it back in. It's that simple. I don't see any of you Democrats bitching or griping or going to jail for children. Not one. Not one. So, Jasmine Crockett, the next time you get up there and start flapping your jaws, why don't you flap it about the kids? That angers me when they don't do shit about the kids. Nothing about the kids. All we hear about is Dan Bongino, the FBI, breaking and saving 200 or 300 children, which is immensely grateful, and I'm very thankful. But that should be up in the hundreds of thousands, not 100 and not a 200. People don't want to work because children are their number one money making business. And I'm sick to death of it. I am so sick to death of it. I just am.
Yeah, and the thing is, like the question I have when I hear about these sponsors, who exactly are the sponsors? They claim it's a family member, but what was revealed recently, actually, or over the course of the last year, I should say, they're like, well, we were given a number, and it was some dude that lives in some state, and you know, they're willing to take them in,
Right.
and it's horrible. I mean, it's horrible. This is more on the immigration thing, but yeah, if you bring kids in from all over the world, their parents don't know where they are, and so on and so forth, and I just I don't understand it, and Adam, I did want to say something real quick because about the midterms, if you don't mind, sir.
No, please.
Yeah, so my son, my older son, he'll actually be voting age eligible in the midterms. And country knows this about me. He's a bright kid. My 15-year-old's a bright kid too, but he actually can vote. And I'll tell you the one thing with him, there's two things that got him. And I don't really push politics on my kids. People say I do, but I actually don't. Um, he came to me a few weeks ago and he said he goes, Dad, he's like, hey Dad, I can vote in 26. And I said, yeah, I know that. And I said, well, what are you thinking? He goes, well, I'm not going to vote for a Democrat. And I said, okay, why? And he goes, the Butler, Pennsylvania, the assassination attempt, that was one. And he's like an athlete, and so is his younger brother. His thing is this girls in sports, even if it's small or just a small number of them, because he's an athlete. He's got this little girlfriend who's a snowboarder and so on and so forth, who lives in Colorado. He's like, Dad, I can't support something like a boy playing in girls sports. But that is like a raw youth saying like, I can't vote for a Democrat,
Yeah.
I agree. And I agree with him. I think I'm totally against this intermingling of locker rooms and fucking sports and shit. Like, there's a reason these things are separate. I think they need to remain separate. I stand by that 10 toes down all day and with my full chest. But and I can respect him recognizing that at still a young age, right? And standing up for that. But like, so I caught a lot of shit over the last couple years because I kept seeing these videos about Gen X, and I'm Gen X, right? So I liked it. I like being Gen X. We're the rebels and all these things, and come home when lights go out. Latchkey kids, had to raise our siblings, all that shit. But I was seeing all these things about Gen X and how much we were gassing ourselves up. And so I made a couple videos calling them out, right? Like, well, what have we done, right? Because we were supposed to be the ones with the transition from the technology. We were supposed to take over and make sure that everything was good, and we failed in many instances. And what I noticed a lot of, and I'm not like shitting on anybody, I'm just saying what I noticed a lot of was everybody's kids seemed to be voting Republican because Democrats were crazy. But somehow Democrats are still getting votes from these kids. So someone's got these kids who are voting Democrats. Not saying it's y'all, but I'm saying there's still a bunch out there who do, right? And kids are easily, in many cases, not all cases, but most cases, kids are much more susceptible to groupthink. They're much more susceptible to falling for bullshit, right? This is the reason we have many of the laws we have, because kids are easily manipulated. Younger people are easily manipulated. The brain's it keeps growing to like 25. Your brain is still developing. So, I mean, I can appreciate your son standing up for that. Absolutely. But it might not be your son, but there's somebody, there's someone's kids who are out there voting Democrat, right? So, I get it. And I hope that shit goes to the wayside, right? Like, I don't give a fuck who's in charge, as long as I do want that shit gone. But I think they'll pull away from it as we get closer along, because I don't care. Like we were talking about it earlier, country. Like it's hard for me to believe that Democrats, like them or not, that these people who have been able to ruin everyone's lives, right? Like everyone talks about how the Democrats are ruining everybody's lives. They've been able to do it with precision. Much less a politician who's been doing it for decades and fucking centuries, been able to make these moves and with precision to put us in the point where we're at now. Because again, they don't suffer as we do. Find me one who does. But then all of a sudden they're just terrible. Like their advisors, like they've been in politics forever. Like, but no one's going, what the fuck are y'all doing? The poll numbers are going down. Why are we fucking pushing this shit? Right? Even if we lose this voter base, it would be better off because we would gain this voter base. It doesn't make sense mathematically why they would do it. It just I don't see the logic in it.
You know, and that's what I'm struggling with. Not struggling with, but I'm trying to figure out. It's a great point, bro. I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, it's almost like I want to I want to sit down and have a conversation with like a Kennedy Democrat or a Clinton Democrat, you know, whatever. And I'm like,
Right.
what is happening to your party? And this, I did want to say this. I mean, the like the AOCs and the Crockett's. Here's how I think: the Jasmine Crockett, the AOC, the Elon Omars. I'm like, I tell the because I do know Democrats, and I talk to a lot of cool Democrats, and I got friends that are Democrats, and I ask them, I'm like, what are you guys doing to stand up to these like way far left, you know, people that have basically taken over your entire party? And the resounding answer I get is they're like, well, we don't really know what to do.
That's what I see. I mean, do you get that feeling
know
too?
what I
I mean,
mean?
Adam, because you're more, libertarian. I get this feeling that they're looking for a leader and they don't know which way to go. They don't know whether to make this decision or this decision, who to follow, who not to follow. And they don't have leadership. They have one that
Charisma
they
grabs
have.
quick though.
Yeah,
Right?
they have AOC and Bernie. They came out, blah, blah, blah. And everybody's like, okay, that didn't work. I think they were testing the waters there, truthfully. And then they have Jasmine Crockett. She's being pushed out there. But Alex Soros pretty much agreed with her, whenever they were all at the wedding, by the way, this past weekend. All the Democrats attended the wedding, And, he's the number one donator to the DNC, to the Democrat Party. He did somewhere in 3 different kinds of one was the NGO. Alex Soros, his dad, 240, I think it was 240 million was donated. So I don't know where they're going to get their money now. I mean, I'm sure, like you said, they've got ways of getting it. Hell, they took billions of dollars already. I'm sure they got a special fund set up already waiting that we don't know about. They're not stupid.
They're not hurting for money. That's like anytime they come out and they're like this, they're struggling for money. That's like one thing that I will
watch out for
I will
it,
buy
because
that shit.
they're probably setting the stage for something else. That's why the voting age needs to change to 25 unless you serve in the military.
How do you get more money? You tell people you don't have money, right?
Well,
And that's what they're doing.
That's a good point. I know I'm off camera right now. I just had to step outside.
We can hear you.
I was talking to a dude who was on TikTok earlier. So
Mhm.
Adam, if you're a libertarian, there was a guy that came up. He was in a live. He goes, "I'm a libertarian socialist," and I'm like, "Wait a minute, what?" He goes,
That's weird.
I go, I thought here's what I told him, and maybe as a libertarian you can enlighten me. I go, I thought the libertarians were very like that party, or the Libertarian Party, is like very, very anti-government, like stay out of our business.
Right.
But a socialist is that, because he kept talking about the unions, and I was like, so I've never heard the term, and I told him this. I said, I've never heard of a libertarian socialist, because
I haven't either. That's a first to me. I haven't either. I think they just come up with different names of things at certain times, because
they just start putting shit together, just throwing shit at the wall, see what sticks, right? Like, so just to clarify, I'm not really a libertarian. It's just what I would closest identify. If I have to be put in a box, it would be closest to libertarian. I don't necessarily put myself there, right? I don't even know what I would classify as, but you can't do that, because basically what you're saying is you're a person who believes in individual freedoms and standing on your own, that depends on other people to help prop them up. That's fucking weird.
Well,
I
guess
collectivism by individualism.
Good point.
I guess that's my point. I'm like, all right, when he said that, I didn't say this to him, but in my mind, I said, that's it. The Democrat Party has completely lost their identity. They don't even know like how to. I'm not saying every Democrat. I'm just saying in general. When you tell me you're a libertarian socialist, I'm like, okay, you guys have lost somebody like that. I'm like, you've lost all touch with reality.
I think it's important to remember, and I say this, and it sounds like I'm just clowning on people, but I mean this with complete honesty, right?
Heather's
Like,
picking on you, Adam. I can't help it. She's putting some
that's all right.
stuff out there.
I'm gonna start begging for their money. I'm gonna start asking y'all for y'all money now. Come on, help me be individual. Help me be free. I need y'all to work for me to be free. I'm all about it. Um, I think it's important to remember, like, a lot of the populace is ignorant as fuck, right? And they're dumb. And I speak to this anecdotally. I can't speak to other places. I can speak anecdotally about where I live. I live in El Paso, Texas. It is an extremely blue town, right? They vote, like, I think every single one of our elected representatives right now are fucking Democrat, like literally, like every single one, like in any major position is Democrat, right?
Right.
This is the thing. When you talk to people here, though, when you have discussions with people that you've known for years, they carry more conservative views. We have a very high Hispanic population. Hispanics, if you look at the way they live, it is a very conservative way of life. It's very pro-religion, pro-family. You know, you have 4-generation homes, and it's not just strictly because of poverty. It's because they just stay together, right? These are things that you would normally see with conservatives. However, they still vote incredibly blue because they're naive to what these party lines are, what they actually mean, right? They choose to just not be involved, right? As long as you're not affecting them at their door directly, they'll just kind of bitch about it and let it go. Well, I believe that most of the populace is this way, which is why when I talk about historically, I feel that's such a strong thing because Americans are fickle, right? They don't need to understand it. They just see something, they're like, I don't like that. Last time I did this, let me try this instead. And also, it's not a president, right? It's Congress. So if you get people out to vote, then that's kind of what it is. But my point is, I think it's important to remember that a lot, like we all know shit, right? So sometimes because of the circles we hang in, we kind of forget that the rest of the world are fucking, they just don't know what the fuck is going on. They still love Hollywood. They think they love fucking music, right? They're still going out and like listening to Diddy and like buying new albums. They don't care. They don't fucking care, right? And this is a lot of the populace. So I think we see that this is a problem, but I think to not even consider it as is something to worry about, right? Like, so if you do believe, like, if you are a conservative right now, I would absolutely say if you want to ensure the midterms, I would be screaming, go fucking vote, go vote, because
Right.
you're gonna have the kids. I mean, shit, no kings. They can get what fucking thousands of people to go out and protest whatever, whatever they fucking
Why
tell them.
can't we do
They Yeah,
vote?
I mean, conservatives, they don't really rally like that. They got jobs and shit, right? Kids, there's always an excuse, to be honest. But the kids can do it. And if they can get them to go out for fucking days to go protest, they can get them to go out for 5 minutes to go vote. And I think that this is what you're going to see during the midterm. So if you're a conservative, I would recommend fucking pushing that shit if you want to ensure all 4 years.
Well, I'll tell you what. I live in northern Arizona. Our sheriff, because you have to elect your sheriffs, at least here. I think that's true all
Yeah,
over
they're
the
changing that
country.
some
If I'm not
places. It's fucking
mistaken.
crazy.
Yeah, he's actually a Democrat, but the guy that was running against him, he was just like a whack job. And the sheriff here, he the way I could best describe him, he's fiscally conservative but socially Democrat. But what he did say, and this is why I voted for him, he said, "I will not enforce any BS 2A infringement upon this county." And I was like, "You got my vote." You
I
know,
would like to. I
um,
would like to actually pull. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, that's it. That's all I want to say. So
I,
I'm not like, I mean, I am MAGA, but I don't necessarily vote down the ticket. I want to hear what they have to say. You know,
Good. Yeah. I think most people should. I think straight ticket voting is dangerous. I think it's dangerous.
right.
I
Go
wanted
ahead.
I wanted to
Go ahead.
ask you. I wanted to ask you. I'm curious just where you stand. So I was talking about this earlier, and I was talking about this last night with some friends of mine, and I do think that this is ultimately what we're going to see is if you look at like the last 20 years, 25 years, right? It's here in our world, right? Like these kids that have grown up in that time, they've seen a lot, if not only chaos and madness, right? And also what there's been pushed through the media, rhetoric, and everything is anti-guns and how dangerous they are. Right. This thing has been pushed into so many people's minds. That's why we do see a lot of places with red flag laws, and people are like, yeah, well, it's safer that way. And I don't want to give them up, but because they think they'll never be implicated or whatnot, and they start to give it up. And we see these in more places regularly popping up. I think there's like 20 plus states that have red flag laws as it is right now. These kids, as they're turning into these voting ages, I think it's going to be easier for them, or it's going to be easier for politicians to push anti-gun legislation because these kids, a lot of them, all they've ever known is how dangerous they are. Unlike us, who were taught to shoot them at a young age. We were taught to respect them, taught to understand them. But you don't see a lot of that, right? Like a lot of, in majority, you don't have people teaching their children about guns because it's taboo, first of all, right? Like, oh my God. And this is a big deal. But I
Social media has
think,
made it look that way, though, dude.
yeah, social media, all media platforms, right? I mean, everything, posters, gun-free zones, right? Like where
Right.
a lot of these tragedies fucking happen. Like,
Mhm.
but these things are pushed, and it's pushed because of the weapon. And I think, always go after the kids is what politicians do, right? Even if you just want to blame Democrats, I don't care. But whoever it is, this is what they do, and this is how they get you on your side. And I think as we keep moving, because we haven't noticed it get less, right? The speaking on anti-guns, it hasn't gotten less. It might not be as loud, but they're implementing more laws, right? So it might not be as loud as it was, but more laws are happening much quieter. And I think you're going to start seeing them even pushing more of that. It's because I always wonder how they get rid of the Second Amendment to the best of their ability. Because if they ever wanted to do martial law, they kind of have to do that because it would be fucking hard to tell people, hey, go fucking block off these cities when everyone's got guns, right? So you got to kind of get them. That's also why I think a lot of this legalization of drugs is happening, right? Because
Yeah.
state, you can have your drugs legally, but federally, if you got drugs and a gun, you'll never own a gun again, right? This is a good way to get that shit taken out care of that people don't think about. You can't own a weed license and a gun license. You can't. So it's these little things like that because they've always been able to play long game. But I was curious what you think. Do you think that you will see more of this anti-guns become a big thing as the youth start to grow into voting ages? You think they're going to push that?
I think in the blue cities you're going to see a lot of that.
That's what I
So
was
it's
gonna
like
say.
once
Yeah.
you're a Democrat, you're always a Democrat, right?
Yep.
And that's why I respect this sheriff. Like Katie Hobbs, our governor, she along with the New
We were
I'm
just talking about
sorry.
her.
I'm sorry,
Um,
Gravel.
We were just talking about her too.
yeah, the he like what he won't put up, like he's a big constitutionalist, right? And he basically came out like his platform was, I'm a Democrat. I know a lot of Yuba County, that's the county I live in, District 2. Elijah Crane is my congressman. Um, he goes, I know you guys know I'm a Democrat, but here's what I'm going to tell you. And he gave a whole speech on it actually, and I met him in person, and he said, "What I will not do, I will not let people come into this county that don't belong here, and by that I mean, like illegal immigrants. I will not allow that. I will not. I will not have my deputies go around and patrol and see what you're doing with your guns if you're a legal gun owner. And I was like, wow.
Well, how do you know that?
Well,
I knew
that's what
that
he
was
said.
coming. I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
Well, I can say that because he ran in the midterms. So he's been the sheriff here for.
No,
Well,
he
he was
means how do you
No,
know that they're a legal gun owner without asking? Are you a legal gun owner?
Without infringing on their rights, how does he know?
Okay. I see I see the point. What I'm saying is, what? Okay, that's all right. So if you commit a crime, they're going to find out. But he's not going to go around and like knock on your door and say, "Let me see all your guns, and I want to make sure they're all registered to you." Yeah. That's not the kind of sheriff he is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I know. I figured that's what it was, but I had to jump on it.
Okay.
I knew it was
fair.
coming. I was sitting
That's
there
fair.
waiting. I was like, I know that question's fixing to come. And it did.
That's fair.
Well, guys, it's been a great show. I guess we'll have to keep an eye on what takes place. Keep your head on a swivel, everyone, because there's sleeper cells out there, and I don't think they're asleep anymore. And I think that they have been preparing for this moment. What was it? Iran put out their message and said, everyone will feel it. That was the message that they put out. Now everybody's been questioning.
You're going to feel the effects of what you just did, something like that.
Yeah. So
I mean, can't blame them, right?
And then you had recently.
We would if they'd done it to us, we would say the same.
Absolutely. Well, Trump would have done something, I'm sure. I mean, but I am going to say I'm grateful and thankful that Trump is in office now. And before we go out, do you agree with what Trump did, Grapple?
Oh, 100%.
Adam, do you agree with what Trump did?
No, I do not.
Now, see, we can agree to disagree, and we can talk about our viewpoints with it all day long, because we're human beings and we have the right to be free thinkers and not be controlled at the end of the day. Doesn't mean you have to disavow and disown your family members and many more people, which has happened throughout the last 4 years. I've never seen such discord between families if you don't believe the way I do or agree upon the topics that I agree. And that's the point. We're trying to show you how you can unite and agree to disagree at the end of the day without.
And Adam, you seem like a great guy, and we can disagree. Mm-hmm. Just on that issue alone. I love what he did. You don't like what he did, but that's okay. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. Doesn't mean I'm a bad person.
Right.
Kind of a bad person, but not because of that.
He's like, I'll get you on a TikTok live, buddy. Just wait.
It was a pleasure meeting you, Gravel. It absolutely was.
You too, Adam.
I look forward to doing this again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I do too.
Crazy. Are you gonna do a TikTok live?
Yeah, I've had so many people messaging me. Country, where you at? Where you at? It's Saturday night.
All right. Well, as always, Country, thank you for having me as a guest on your show. Adam, great meeting you. Great meeting you, buddy.
Pleasure, bro.
Look forward to like cool discourse. That's what it's all about.
All day.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. And thank you everyone on X and all the platforms. Thank you guys from streaming. And if you have Kick, go over there and follow Country Crazy with a dash 73. I need to build some followers up over there. This is our 3rd time streaming on Kick. There's good opportunities if you can get up to 3,000 followers. Kick will offer you a deal. So that's our goal. We have goals, and that's what we should have at the end of the day. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Heather, thank you so much for outstanding job. I really appreciate it. Better and better.
Yeah.
Everyone in the comments.
Heather, I don't know where you are. You're in like internet land or something. You're like
she's in her own little sound booth.
She's like the lawnmower man. She's in the system.
But thank you, Heather.
And Kate, I really appreciate, and Driver, thank you. I really appreciate your comments, even though we don't agree on some things. You guys are awesome.
Love you guys.
As always. Love you guys. Stay safe. Keep your head on a swivel. Pray for our nation. Pray for our president. And in God we trust. Country Crazy out.
Amen.